Hello, my friends. It is not Taylor Swift, nor Drake, nor The Weeknd that has dropped the latest album today, but it is in fact React 19 that I'm truly excited about because it got stable today, the day we have all been waiting for. So, in this specific comprehensive video, let me give you a quick walkthrough of all the important updates and changes that you should truly care about in React 19 and should not miss in less than 5 minutes because your time is super valuable. So let's dive in. Server components and server actions are finally stable inside of React 19. Server components are a type of component that are rendered ahead of time in an environment separate from a build server, but they generate a special stream called as the RSC payload, React Server Component Payload, that React understands and then displays it on the browser. They're not part of your browser bundle, which will give you instant performance boost. You would typically use server component for GET requests, then you would use server actions for any type of mutations such as put, post, and delete operations. Both of them are quite powerful. If you take a look at this simple example of a course platform, it lists a bunch of courses. If you take a look at this code, then this page.tsx is in fact a server component. Why? Because by default in Next.js, any component that is not specified with a use client directive on top is in fact a server component. So in this case, we are essentially fetching the courses and then looping through them and displaying it to the user. Now, alongside server components, in order for you to fetch data, you can also use a new API called as use that allows you to basically fetch your request and suspend it until the promise resolves. For example, in this case, I'm returning a fake promise for fetching the courses, and then we can just use the use API from React, which comes from React directly, and then we can fetch the courses and then loop through them and return them. On the other hand, server actions are essentially asynchronous functions that get exposed as HTTP endpoints that your components can just invoke. For instance, if I click on any specific course, this is a form, and a form is a perfect example where you would want to use a server action to basically perform a mutation to enroll a specific person in the course. So, for instance, if I select my dog's name, Kobe Beanie, over here with me at kobe.com, and hit enroll, this is in fact executing a server action. For instance, if we take a look at the code, we have a form right here, and the action is in fact associated to a handler called handler submit, where we invoke our server action. Enroll in course action is in fact a server action. Why? Because it has a use server directive on top, which exposes any functions in the specific file as server actions as public HTTP endpoints that essentially gets executed. So once the server action is complete, then we can successfully redirect the user to dashboard. Now the next important hook is use form status. This specific hook is again used alongside server actions, typically in a form. Whenever we want to know the status of the form, if it's pending or not, we can use the hook use form status that hooks into server actions and works seamlessly. For instance, again, if we enter Luna and me at kobe.com, for instance, and hit enroll, you will see a state change called enrolling, and that is in fact shown because of use form status hook. If I do that, it shows enrolling, and then we navigate the user after the user has been enrolled. So, for instance, over here, we are using the hook use form status, which again comes from React DOM, which exposes this field called pending, and this field is then being used to then disable the specific input fields. At the same time, we are using use form status in the button as well to disable the button and change the state from enroll now to enrolling if pending is true. Use optimistic hook, as the name indicates, allows you to optimistically update the UI as if the request is going to be successful. In case if there is an error, you can always revert back to its original state. So if we take a look at this example, we are using use optimistic hook in this specific button to mark the specific course as complete. For instance, if I say mark as complete, it is in fact completed, but then we reverted back to its original state because I haven't really integrated the backend and there might be an error. So for instance, if we take a look at the code, then we are using use optimistic hook right here, where this specific current progress would come from the API itself. And then we have the mark complete button, which gets executed when you do press mark as completed. When then we set the optimistic progress as completed equals true, we execute the server action for updating the lesson progress action. And then in case of an error, we basically revert it back to its original state. If it's completed, then we show completed as true, otherwise in progress, just like we saw. So this specific hook is very handy when you want to show optimistic updates to the user. Use transition hook is very useful whenever you know that a specific request might take a very long time. For instance, if we have this specific request mark as complete that's going to take a very long time, without use transition hook, this might freeze the UI thread and user will not be able to interact with your application at all until that specific network request, that really slow one, is completed. So you would use transition hook in that case by using a hook called use transition, which gives you the is pending status and also start transition. You wrap your entire operation that might probably be slow in start transition. And then you use the is pending hook to essentially indicate marking as complete and in progress status. And also, once it's done, mark as complete. For instance, if I click on this, marking as complete, and then marked as complete, this still allows user to click anywhere on the browser and won't freeze the entire UI or block the main thread. Lastly, we have use action state that really hooks well into server actions and gives us the exact status of server actions, such as if it's in progress, what's the state, and so on. For instance, if we have this simple form where we have the name, email, and a submit form, when we click on submit form, you can see submitting and then a message called thanks Kobe. All thanks to use action state, we can just simply use the hook called use action state, and it gives us two properties, state and form action. The form action will go into the form action property directly, so it can easily hook into it and gives us all the properties necessary. And then state is what we would use to basically show the message if it's successful or not. And if we take a look at submit user action, it is in fact a server action and it gives us if success is true, success is false, and also a message alongside it. And this just makes it really easy for us to know the exact status of our request, and we don't have to additionally add a bunch of different use states to track the different states of our request. Now that's a wrap. These are all the exciting changes in React 19 that I think you should truly care about. But obviously, these are not all the changes. There are quite a bit of improvements in this version as well. So definitely consider that before upgrading. If you want a cheat sheet that you can just reference while you upgrade to React 19, then definitely check the link in the description below. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.